You're like,
Okay, ready? Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to share. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the auspicious, beautiful knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Um, the way Srila Prabhupada has given it to us is just for us. So he understood time, place, and circumstance in sharing Krishna consciousness to the world. There's a purport where he explains that someone who can actually understand how to apply Krishna consciousness to time, place, and circumstance is especially blessed by the Lord. It's a special blessing. It's not an ordinary ability to be able to apply this profound philosophy to time, place, and circumstance. Prabhupada took it out of India and he brought it to, America, Russia, Africa, places that have a whole different mentality and concept of life. And he was able to apply the wisdom of the sages, the previous acharyas, to help us and uplift us. This is his legacy. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28, Verse 26. And I'll read the Sanskrit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tam Jagya Pashavonena Samgyapta Ye Dayaluna Kutarais Sichada Krudha Smaranto Mi Vamasyatat. Tam, him, Jagya Pashava, the sacrificial animals, Anena, by him, Samgyapta, killed, yea, all of them, who, Adayaluna, by the most unkind, Kotarai, by axes, Sichada, pierced to pieces, Krudha, being very angry, Smaranta, remembering, Amivam, sinful activity, Asya, of him, Tat, that. That most unkind king, Puranjan, had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now, taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with their horns. It was as though he was being cut to pieces by axes. Oh, that's horrible, horrifying. Sounds horrifying. Frightful situation. Those who are very enthusiastic about killing animals in the name of religion or for food must await similar punishment after death. The word mamsa, meat, indicates that those animals whom we kill will be given an opportunity to kill us. Although in actuality, no living entity is killed, the pains of being pierced by the horns of animals will be experienced after death. Not knowing this, rascals unhesitatingly go on killing poor animals. So-called human civilization has opened up many slaughterhouses for animals in the name of religion or food. Those who are little religious kill animals in temples, mosques, or synagogues, and those who are more fallen maintain various slaughterhouses. Just as in civilized human society, the law is a life for a life. No living entity can encroach upon another living entity as far as the Supreme Lord is concerned. I'm going to read that part again. No living entity can encroach upon another living entity as far as the Supreme Lord is concerned. Ahimsa is the first principle of yoga. Do no harm. So where Krishna is concerned, no one should embarrass, be rude to, be intimidating to, be controlling to, or judgmental of, or hurt another living being, either physically, emotionally, because it will hurt them spiritually. So this is a very important point, or the result is here, you will suffer. Everyone should be given freedom to live at the cost of the Supreme Father. In other words, we should give everyone freedom. Krishna gives us free will, freedom. So everyone has freedom to live according to their ability, under the will of the Supreme Lord. Krishna wills that we have our free will. He wills that we sometimes make mistakes, because that is our choice. He wills that we do something foolish and then we will have to suffer for it. That is our choice. But under his will, everyone is given freedom. So we should not take that freedom away from others. It's not our business. Otherwise, we're playing God by being controlling, intimidating, disrespectful, demeaning in any way. So being saintly is a very difficult situation, but that's how we have power. If we want power, we want control, then be a saintly person and control our own mind and senses and urge of false ego, urge of our selfishness to do things for ourselves. Then when we have control of that, we are in control of our lives and our choices. And that's a powerful thing. Sages are powerful. Just by their glance, they could create so many things can happen. So if we want power, don't be powerful with our false ego. Let's not be powerful with our false ego, because that's only going to make us suffer. That doesn't empower us, it disempowers us. If we want power, we become saintly. That's the best power. So anyone who, everyone should be given freedom to live at the cost of the Supreme Father. Animal killing, either for religion or food, is always condemned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Tanaham dvishata, and I'll not read the rest of the Sanskrit because it's not really my language. I'm not expert, but it means, and that's the important part, that we get the meaning. Those who are envious, of course it's auspicious, always, but those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. But remember, even though they may be cast because they're envious, those who are envious, those who are selfish, those who harm others, they will be put into the ocean of material existence, but that is not forever. It's not a condemnation forever. They are constantly being given a chance. They are constantly being given a chance to rectify themselves. That is another mercy of the Lord. No one is condemned forever. It could be a long time though, so you don't want to risk it. But the idea is that the Lord is all good. That's why he's all good, because he constantly gives us, and through that suffering, through that going through hell, we start thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I here suffering like this? What do I have to do to get out of it? And we start inquiring and we start waking up a bit. That's the purpose of the suffering. That's the purpose of the karma. Once you learn the lesson is gone. That particular karma will not be yours anymore to suffer. The animal killers, dvishata, envying other living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are placed in darkness and cannot understand the theme and objective of life. This is further explained in the following verses. So envy of other living entities. We keep people down to make ourselves look better. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The psychology of that. When we are cruel, when someone is cruel, it's because they're getting something out of it. They're getting some higher taste, in a way, you could say. They're getting some feeling of superiority. By dismissing someone else, calling them a name, or thinking they're less intelligent or whatever, we get some false ego power. It's false power, false sense that I am superior, so I am better, that makes me happy. It may for a small amount of time until you have to suffer because you cause harm to others. So envying others is the whole reason. Envying the Supreme Lord, envy is the reason why we're here in this world and why we suffer. So if we have to think, whenever we suffer, we have to think, okay, I put myself here in this place, and so now I have to deal with the consequences. So those who are in darkness and ignorance, they cannot understand the theme and objective of life. So let's discuss the theme and objective of life. What is the theme and objective of life? Well, I'm sure you all have some answers. And ultimately, we know as devotees, the theme and objective of life is to love Krishna. So how do we do this? All these harsh lessons that we've been reading in the Bhagavatam, learning and reading about the harshness of this material world, material existence, and the harsh struggle of this material existence. All of these descriptions is not to make us dwell on that harshness, but it's to help us to realize that we don't belong here. We don't belong here in this material realm. We don't belong with this material mentality of false ego and selfishness and pride. So we are awkwardly trying to enjoy and control. It's actually awkward for the soul. We actually feel awkward. We struggle thinking, it's natural to have self-control is a natural thing actually for the human being. It's natural life, a regulated life. It's a natural life. Following devotional practices, yogic practices. It's a natural way of life. It's the most natural way of life for a human being. But we awkwardly try to enjoy and control. That is artificial. We're meant to love God and be well-wishers of all the living entities that He has created, that He has put here. So to do that, we have to control our urge, to enjoy and control at the cost of others. Meat eating is one of the most gross displays of the urge to control. Lesser urges to control, because at the cost, because the idea is, I want to just taste something, therefore I will even murder for the sake of tasting something. So it's the most gross form of controlling someone else. We perform sacrifice as devotees, as Vaishnavas, as saintly people, or trying to be saintly people. We perform sacrifice. So what are all the sacrifices meant for? Even the sacrifice of the animal, if you're going to eat animals, then do it in a religious way. Prabhupada's condemning both in this purport. But if you're going to do it in a religious way. The Vedas recommend that. Even the Bible recommends that. Every single religion has some restrictions on meat eating and sex, because these are two powerful ways that we control others, through meat eating and through sex life. This is why it's so bad for the soul. This is why it's considered sinful, because it keeps us away from Krishna. It keeps us in control. It keeps us thinking that we are in control. It keeps us in the illusion that we are controlling others through sex and through meat eating. When countries would conquer over another country, the first thing they would do is rape all the women. And this is known throughout the world. It's not just from the, it's not in the Vedic times and culture. It was there also. The first thing they would do when they conquered over another country is rape all the women. That's control. I own them. They belong to me. So, what we need to sacrifice, why we perform sacrifices, is to control our false ego. All the sacrifices we perform is meant to control our false ego, so that we can focus on our real identity, our real ego. Who am I? Servant of God, servant of Krishna, servant of humanity, well-wisher of humanity. Prabhupada always signed his letters, your ever well-wisher. This is no ordinary well-wishing. This is his very identity, realizing I am the servant of everyone. Even though I am the Prabhupada, the master, at whose feet all other masters bow, I am the well-wisher for everyone. So all the sacrifices we perform, all the Vedic sacrifices that are there, recommended in the Vedas, recommended in other religions, it's all meant to sacrifice our ego, our desire to enjoy and control everything. So the point is that we should try to be aware. We awaken our consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna. What are we being aware of? We're being aware that God is love. God is all loving and caring. And he doesn't want to see us suffer. He doesn't want to see anyone suffer. So we have to help him in that endeavor by being compassionate, by feeling the suffering of others, by empathizing with their plight, and by helping them to relieve their plight through Krishna consciousness and through kind acts as well. A Vaishnava never causes suffering. Otherwise, you're not a Vaishnava. Otherwise, I'm not a Vaishnava. As soon as I cause suffering, of course, we are trying to be Vaishnava. So every now and then we may do something that causes someone harm. We should be regretful. We should be apologetic. That's our penance, to actually say and mean that I'm sorry and be conscious not to do that again. Yes, we will make mistakes. We all will. Every day we may make a mistake, but we continue to try to be aware of, I should not commit harm to anyone. How can I acknowledge this and, try harder to be kinder next time, be more compassionate next time. So Srila Prabhupada traveled all over the world in his old age, I believe 14 times or whatever, He wrote all these books, over 70 volumes, all out, why? All out of compassion for us who are suffering in the material bodily concept of life. This is the whole purpose of why he did it, because he cares, because he loves. He loves Krishna and he loves all living entities because we are all part of Krishna. So we should question ourselves. Are my activities, is everything I do out of compassion, out of love? We should question ourselves. So when we read these purports about how miserable the material world is and how everyone will suffer because they're sinful, how the meat eaters will go to the darkest regions of hell, and when we read these things, how do we feel? Meditate for a moment. When you read this purport, or when I read it to you, whatever, if you read it yourself before, or when you read other purports like this, what is your initial feeling inside your heart? We read about someone suffering when they cause suffering to others. How do we feel? Do we actually feel a little relief and enjoying the feeling of self-righteousness? That, when self-righteousness means, I believe the actual meaning of self-righteousness, which is something that we have to be very careful of, because when one is in the mode of goodness, the thing to be careful about is that you feel happy because you feel, I have more knowledge than other people. With that knowledge, in real mode of goodness, you're supposed to help other people. But sometimes we get caught up in that, oh yes, I am a poet, I am a philosopher, I am a scientist, I have more knowledge, I am a spiritual person, I'm religious, I know the Shastra. So that is a danger, because then we're feeding our ego instead of using it to help others. So in the same way, as a spiritual practitioner, sometimes we feel, oh, I have I have the best religion, I have the best philosophy, and therefore I am the best because I'm practicing it, and therefore I'm better than others. So self-righteousness means I believe that my intention is sincere, that I'm doing this because I am religious, I am pious, I am a good person. But when we look at others, we very easily assume the worst of their intentions. We assume the worst of their intentions. Oh, just look, they're doing this. They're not chanting their rounds, or they not sitting properly, or they're, whatever, because they are rascals. They're insincere. We assume another's intention, and that is one of the most grave dangers that a Vaishnav can fall into. So please be very careful not to assume what others are doing. Maybe someone put the wrong flower on the wrong vase, or the wrong cup in the wrong place, or whatever, and we think, oh, that's because, there's a nice story of this, about assuming. There was a man, he was on the train. This train is always crowded. And there was one father with some children on the train, and they were older children, they were not babies, but they were causing a ruckus on the train. The children were acting very disruptive. And the father was just sitting there with his eyes closed, and he was just ignoring what his children were doing. And the person across from him on the train was feeling, you started assuming, why is this father? He's not a good father. He's letting these children be uncontrolled, making disturbance for all these other people. What rascal he is. What a stupid father he is. He's not good. So then he went up to this father and he said, why aren't you controlling your children? And the man said, we just came from the hospital. Their mother just passed away. I don't know what to do. Then the man could feel compassion. But it took that to feel compassion. Instead of, he assumed something. And then when he heard the actual story, this man is suffering so much. What can I do? Then he felt bad. So when we see others suffering or we see others misbehaving, we don't know the cause. We need to feel that compassion before we assume. A devotee may be having some great difficulty. Maybe something traumatic happened in their life. And then, we're so quick to judge and assume why they're not chanting their rounds properly or why blah, blah, blah. But wait till it's your turn. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but wait till it's our turn, because it will always be our turn. In this material world, everyone's got their turns to suffer, and the whole purpose of suffering, again, is to learn our lesson. So we should take that and embrace it and say, okay, let me learn my lesson. So, do we feel self-righteous? And we believe, oh, I'm better than them. It serves them right. It's their karma. And then we judge and put ourselves above others. This shows that our faith is actually not strong. Being self-righteous, judgmental, critical of others, it's a way to deflect and deny our own selfish mentality. I'm going to be defensive before they attack me. So I'll be mean to everyone. That's psychology. It's in the books. Read psychology books. Why are some people very difficult all the time? Why are they always defensive? No matter what I say to them, I'm having an argument, because they just turn it into a defense. This happens. We know people like this. It's actually not because they're strong, not because they're in control. It's because they are fearful of showing their real mentality, their real selfishness. So when someone is suffering, do we make it all about us? We have to be careful about not doing that. Do we take pleasure in putting people down or keeping them down when they are down already, so that we feel and look better for ourselves? Offensiveness and defensiveness is all out of fear that others will see my weakness, and fear that I'll have to face that I am really not that much better than them. We're fearful to face that fact. And so this is not a sincere intention after all. So another way we may think we are able to, when another feeling that we may have when we hear these descriptions is that, do we enjoy feeling relieved? Oh, well, at least it's not me. I didn't do that, so I'm not going to suffer like that. It has nothing to do with my life. This is also born from fear and selfishness. And it has nothing to do with loving Krishna. So, any comments or questions along the way here, we will appreciate.
Actually, one good before. There's many meat-eating people say that there is no proof that God wanted us to be vegetarian. Even in the Bible, Jesus multiplied fish and wine. How do you reconcile this?
Time, place, and circumstance. So there is time, place, and circumstance. But my question to them would be, why in every religion is there some restriction on these things? I mean, obviously, when the parents say, all right, if you're going to do this, you're going to go out late, to a teenager or something, they'll say, I'm not going to try to force you to stay home because you'll just run away. So you're going to go out late, but can you please be back at a certain time? Have a restriction, So this is because Lord is trying to tell us, we don't really want you to do these things. But if you're going to do it, then could you at least do it within this do it with this consciousness, do it with some restrictions so that you'll learn gradually that it's not worth it.
Yeah. And actually, it is written, and it is written. Yes, it is in the New Testament. Jesus multiplied the fish and the wine. But if we like a very avid reader of the Bible, then we should start with Genesis and go back to Genesis, the first book of Genesis, and it is, I believe, it's in the 30 or 29 or 30, where actually says that it is giving you the seed and is giving you the fruit and the tree, and that shall be the meat. So it didn't say that you go and kill the beast, just you're going, I make you master of the beast. Don't eat the beast. It says the seeds and the fruits shall be the meat. So
So there are
isn't that
many ways, yes. And there are many ways people will argue so much, and we even argue on our own scriptures, different points
right?
of these things. Yes, but the point that, yeah, that's so we can take that argument, and other people will say, I don't believe that part, I believe this part. But he also said the burnt sacrifices will be your offerings, and there's so many other things we can argue back and forth. But the main point is, obviously, God doesn't want us to hurt anyone. I mean, it should be obvious, please, like little children, you know, maybe arguing in a sandbox. Well, you know, I can't slap you, but I can pinch you. That's not as violent. So I will pinch you. I mean, you know, we can argue so many different points of view. But yes, there are always restrictions. That's the point. So why? Think about it. Yeah. Any other question or comment?
Binduleka and online, I think she wants, please go ahead.
Okay, hi, Hare Krishna. I just have okay, there are restrictions and rules. Like, let's say when you do service, like when we took initiation, we had, we will chant 16 rounds. Then we took Brahmana initiation. So to do certain service, there, like if you Brahmana is like you have to chant your Gayatri, you chant your rounds, then you cook for deities, you pujari. And I remember like about 15 years ago, one Maharaj was giving a deity worship seminar in Boston, and he was asked question from temple devotees saying like there are some pujaris who do not chant their rounds. What should we do? And I was expecting that he will say, oh, they should not be worshiping the deities. But he said, we need to see why they're not chanting. So that left a big impact on me. But at the same time, where do we draw the line? Like how much like can we tolerate? I don't know even if this proper word to say. Like,
No,
what should we do?
yes. So the basic idea is that there's a formula and rules in place for being a devotee, for being a Brahmin, for being a deity worshiper, different services. There are certain rules and guidelines in place. Now, where do we draw a line to being so strict that we lose our compassion? Or where do we draw the line where we incorporate human error, compassion, difficulties, life, life hitting us in different ways, and see how someone may be doing their best, even though it is not up to that standard of regulation? Well, I think just as Prabhupada gave us the 4 regulator principles when we get initiated, and he said, the 5 regulator principles, chant 16 rounds every day, basically, that's what he expected. So in one temple, there was a devotee who was taking care of the cows. That was his propensity, to do outside work, labor, and take care of cows. And he was very good at it. It was a big farm, and he was at the time, and he was very good at it. He dedicated himself in that way. But he never came to Bhagavatam class. He never chanted his rounds. He never did all the other things that an initiated devotee is expected to do. So when Prabhupada went to visit that farm community, the devotees approached Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, this devotee is not doing this, 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 this. What do we do with him? Prabhupada said, what does he do? Well, he takes care of the cows all day. Prabhupada said, then he will go back to Godhead by taking care of Krishna's cows. He didn't say you must make him do this or change his service and make him stay inside the temple and torture him. No, he said that's his seva, that's his connection. Someone asked me several days ago about a person they knew, a friend, who is always saying, I love Krishna, Krishna, have mercy on me, Krishna willing, Krishna so kind, every day, I am yours, Krishna, I am yours. And he would talk like this and say this and, act like he felt this, but he couldn't give up some bad habits of breaking regulator principles, several of them. So they asked, what do I do with this person? So my answer was, if you just concentrate on what the person is not doing and you chastise them too much, they may go away completely. So they have this little string of attachment to Krishna, of feeling that Krishna is all good. He is compassionate. I am his. Let me be with him. And they're chanting somewhat. So we have to see what he is doing and concentrate on that and encourage him. You love Krishna so much. Krishna cares for you too, and he wants what's best for us. So in a kind way, we approach someone who is not able to perform up to this higher standard. We can remind them of the higher standard. We can discuss what is so difficult about these standards, and they are difficult many times. And especially if we're undergoing some specific incident in our lives that make life difficult just to even wake up and breathe in the morning or whatever, so we want to address that and say, what is making you feel like this? And maybe take little steps at a time towards it, if we can encourage them. But ultimately, it's going to be up to them. So sometimes, at the same time, as a leader of an international society, Srila Prabhupada was sometimes very strict with his leaders. So why did you not do this? You didn't even clean the bathroom properly, like even little things like that. And he was like, chastising them to be aware and conscious of keeping that higher standard and not using our weakness as an excuse to lessen those standards. So there's a balance. And I think, the main thing is we don't want whoever is a little attached to the deities or to Krishna or to their service, we don't want them to go away and stop. But at the same time, we want to encourage that there is a standard and there is the highest ways to do this, the most clean ways to do this. And what is it all for? It's ultimately out of sincerity. Although I have to say, in my own experience, I am not a pujari. I'm not a cook or a pujari. I never felt very good at these things, but I was sometimes forced to do that. Women have to stay in the kitchen. So, so I was forced sometimes that I'd have to stay in the kitchen and cook. And every single day, I remember at one point I was burning everything, every single day, no matter, I tried so hard, I would be in tears. And every single day, that afternoon offering, something would be wrong. It would be burnt or something. So there was one devotee who was very kind, and he was also one of the leaders, but he wasn't the one making me stay in the kitchen. And one day he came in and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm burning this is just not who I am to be here doing this. And he said, Ananga, Krishna loves your burnt offerings because so sincere. And, and that just encouraged me that, okay, not that I should continue burning. I didn't take advantage of it in that way, that it doesn't matter. I didn't take it, but it relieved me that, oh, there's a little kindness here. There's kindness amongst the devotees. There's that, let me try a little harder to do it right, and let me be that sincere person that he thinks I am, so let me try a little harder, but at the same time, I don't have to be so discouraged that I just want to throw the whole thing down and run away. So that kindness went a long way for me. He said, Krishna doesn't care about what you're making, that it's burnt or not. He cares about how you feel about him and how you're trying to serve him. So that's an important point to think about. Is that helpful? And then you have to you have to pray and become expert in the time, place, and circumstance. Not to lower standards, but to be compassionate and give people a chance to rise up to that standard. Prabhupada knew we weren't qualified. When he gave us initiation, when he gave us Brahmin initiation, when he gave sannyasi sannyas, he knew that many of them would not last. It wasn't that he didn't know what he was doing. He knew many of us would leave. Many of us would not be able to continue following the highest standard that he gave. He knew this, but he gave us the chance. So we have to give people the chance without ruining the high ideals. So I guess that would be something to think about and work at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, well, I guess we can end here. And let's be very careful not to encroach upon another living entity, because we are involved with trying to serve the Lord's purpose, and that's to love and encourage everyone towards him. So let's try to be more sensitive to everyone. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very nice statement at the end. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Have a great weekend. Thank you.